Blood red moon lights my way. Angel found themselves me. Life and death. I don't want to end this game.
Alright guys, so today is July 12th. Oh man, the year is absolutely flying by, which is a scary thought at one point, but I mean, hey, we're almost closer to November, right? I don't know, I'll probably say October, because I would probably make the case that October college football is the second best sport of the year behind college basketball. I mean, it is really fun, but of course, nothing tops college basketball, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Of course, I wanted to go into a longer look at Georgia's schedule because I felt like I rushed it. I ducked Georgia's schedule, and we'll look at their schedule and their roster real quick. I'll go through their roster again because I went back and heard my video yesterday, and it was in very, very bad recording quality, and I apologize for that. I have absolutely no idea what happened in that. So, number 0 will be Blue Cane. Number 1 will be Dakota Lefew. Number 2 will be Deshane Montgomery. Number 3 will be Savo Jerziks. Number 4 will be Jordan Key. Number 5 will be Silas Demery Jr. So you know Silas is making the change from 4 to 5. Samato Croyle will be 6. Tyron Lawrence 7. RJ Godfrey number 10. Markel Jennings number 12. Dylan James number 13. Asa Newell number 14. Brandon Klatsky 22. Jaden Newell 24, and then Justin Abson at 25. So that is Georgia's roster, official roster now, because the Dawgs have officially announced their roster. I tell people this all the time: when you start announcing rosters, eventually then you will start to announce. The games, of course, and here's my thing on Georgia this year, and I feel like a lot of people, maybe some Georgia fans included as well, I feel like everybody is sleeping on Georgia this year. Man, Georgia could be a wonderful team. The SEC could actually have, I would probably say 9 or 10 or even 11 bids this year in the SEC tournament, which if you're the NCAA, that's exactly what you want. You want the best of the best. I know there's going to be people who say, well, the SEC is not a basketball con. I do hear you, but I mean, at the end of the day, man, I mean, it don't get better than the SEC in basketball. Sure, they haven't won the national championship, but when Mark Sears coming back to Alabama, and I've said this multiple times on and off camera, I believe Alabama's going to have the best backcourt in just not in the SEC, but in the entire college basketball landscape. I mean, maybe Kansas. I think Kansas returns a lot of their players as well, and their backcourt is going to be stacked as well. But nah, I believe the best backcourt of the season will probably go to Alabama. And then, I feel like a lot of people are just sleeping on Georgia, and I don't get it. Georgia is bringing back Silas, Blue, Dylan James. Now, you might look at Georgia and say, well, okay, they lose Justin Hill, they lose M.A. Moncrief, they lose Jabri Abdul-Rahim, they lose R.J. Melendez, and I hear you, but, and look, man, I mean, I've said this, 23-24 roster will forever be one of my favorites. I mean, that season just meant so much to me at that moment in time, and it would be hard to top it. But if you look through every single player, Georgia has almost either got one just as good or perhaps even a little bit better. So, I mean, Georgia is absolutely fine with that. The only problem I have is I'm not going to be able to watch all those guys. I said it yesterday, I'm going to miss watching Justin Hill. I'm going to miss watching Jabri. I'm going to miss watching Matthew Alexander Moncrief. But I will, I tell people this all the time, it always goes to the NFL, like, yes, I want Georgia players to do good in the NFL, but in the NFL, I am a team player. I'm a team fan. I don't really care for, pulling for one or two teams because they have a certain player on it, and that's college athletics. I mean, look, man, I'm Georgia all the way through. But here's the also thing you have to realize too. It ain't like Georgia's going to go play Seattle. I mean, that's where M.A. Moncrief transferred. Former Georgia player K.D. Johnson, I believe, transferred to George Mason. They played 3 years ago now. That actually would have been hilarious if he was on that team the year they played in 21-22. But he was at Auburn. But yeah, man, I'm gonna miss watching those guys. I hope they do really, really good, man. I really do. But as I was saying about Georgia, Blue Canes, Elias Demery, Dylan James. I mean, I'm just looking at our roster here. Dakota Lefevue, Deshane Montgomery, Safo Jerzic. I'm just going down the list. Tyron Lawrence, Samato Croyle, R.J. Godfrey, Dylan James, Asa Newell. I mean, I don't know who Georgia's starting five is going to be next year, but I mean, Georgia has one of the most talented rosters in the SEC. I was going to say in college basketball, but I'm not going to hold my brakes on that. But I mean, Georgia won the offseason. And as a Georgia fan, it feels odd to say that. Like, I never remember being able to say that, Georgia had a great offseason in basketball, because it's very, very rare that's the case. 2021, you're losing Anthony Edwards, but you're happy with what you have. And unfortunately, that's a COVID year. 21-22, the complete roster just explodes, and you lose like 11 players or something. You lost like 10 or 10, 11 players. You lost all your best players. You lost Severe Wheeler. You lost Monty Kamara. Then 2022-23, you're coming off the 6-26 season, so you're kind of hoping, you get more than 6 wins. And I've said this before. I believe that the Georgia NIT run might have changed the way our season looked at the end of the year, because my thing is this: if we would have lost to Florida and not played again, I feel like we're having completely different conversations about our off season, what our season looks like next year, what was our season in 23-24. But that is what postseason basketball can bring to the table. Georgia fans who are just football fans will not understand what a team who's not made the postseason in 8 years, what that could do for our basketball program. But it was just huge. And I mean, I will forever be grateful for all the players on this team for 23-24 roster. I've mentioned it 100 times, and I'll never miss a chance to say it. There'll never be another season like it. I have never seen Georgia play in the postseason. And, I was really, really young during their NIT run, so there you go. I have never actually remember seeing Georgia play in the postseason. There's never a first. You can never do a first again, and you know what? I hope this year is the first NCAA tournament run. But there's never a first, and that to me is what made the 23-24 Georgia team special. I'll do a whole video on it one of these days. But, yeah, man, there never is a first. And, the 23-24 team was special, but I would even make the case that the 24-25 team could be even more special. Now, Georgia's schedule. The Hoop Dogs will open up the season versus Tennessee Tech, 11-4-24. There, week 1, watching college basketball all freaking week, dude. It always a fun week. Remember last year, James Madison went on the road to Michigan State, the very first game of the year, and upset them. So I mean, it's an unpredictable week. There has to be another game between this because their next game is 11-12. They'll be playing North Florida. November 23rd and 24th, they'll be playing Marquette and St. John's in the Bahamas. The December 3rd, they'll play Notre Dame. December 14th, this is why I've mentioned they have a unknown game versus a unknown opponent in Atlanta on the 14th. They'll play College of Charleston December 22nd. They'll play South Carolina State December 29th. Georgia Tech and Texas Southern. Texas Southern will be a part of a MTE, the Peach Bell Classic, with Georgia and Georgia Tech. And I believe North Florida. So there you go. At Georgia Tech, mate. I have two things to say about Georgia's schedule, and they kind of both go into one another. And after this, I have one more video to record. First off, I'm going to start with the Georgia Tech game. If you follow me on Twitter, you know I've been very, very vocal about the two teams putting the Georgia Tech game on the Saturday this year, because the football team will be playing on Black Friday. They should put the basketball game on Saturday. That would absolutely be amazing, and that would help Georgia very, very much with everything. I mean, that we never get days to ourselves as basketball, so that would be very, very cool to see. Georgia Tech football, say Georgia wins in football, and then turn around, you got the basketball game at 7 p.m. on Saturday. Man, that would be pretty hard to top. That would be very, very cool. And the last thing I wanted to say, and then I'll wrap this up, 'cause I still have 2 or 3 other videos to record, is December 14th, there is an unknown game in Atlanta. I don't know who that's going to be yet. I've tried asking. I don't know who it's going to be. Perhaps, I really wanted to try to get information early so we wouldn't have to wait, but unfortunately, we're going to have to wait. I was maybe thinking, I looked at Georgia Southern's non-conference schedule, and unfortunately, they have a game that day. They play, I think, North Florida, oddly enough, that day, which Georgia is playing them too. But I looked at Georgia Southern. They have a game. I'm probably sure Georgia State did have a game that day too, because the Sun Belt schedule is very almost similar to one another. It's just, this game could be some. Now, Georgia used to play teams in Gwinnett back in the day. They played Illinois, Georgia State, Gonzaga. They played a handful of teams in Gwinnett. They used to. They don't anymore, but they used to play in Gwinnett. This game, there's either going to be 2 things to happen with this game. It is going to be a big power opponent that you didn't expect to play, or it's going to be a small team that Georgia's going to win by 40 or 50 points. But, well, I mean, I don't know that for sure, but it's going to be a small team that Georgia should take care of, or it's going to be a big team that will sell out the arena. My only problem is, and Josh Brooks, if you're listening, I understand what to play in Atlanta, but man, I mean, in-market arena in Savannah, that's just as great as a arena. And I know you're in Georgia Southern territory in Savannah, but I mean, there are all kind of dog fans in Savannah. So I mean, hey, I'm just saying, come on, man, let's pack up. Savannah's my favorite city. Let's go to Savannah. Let's go to Savannah and watch some Georgia basketball. Let's go to Savannah and watch Georgia versus Mississippi Delta College or something. Mississippi Valley. There you go. Let's go to Savannah and watch Mississippi and Mississippi Delta and the Mississippi Delta Devils and the Georgia Bulldogs on a Saturday at 1:00. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. And actually, Mississippi Delta actually rebranded their their logo. It actually looked very, very cool. But anyway, outside of, I apologize, I got off track there. I don't know who it's going to be, and Georgia's, we'll find out sooner enough. But I'm probably leaning towards it's going to be, if it's not an ACC team, it's going to be one of those little lower college teams that Georgia. I mean, I ain't gonna say Georgia should beat because we've lost to them in the past, but I mean, it should be a team that Georgia should probably take care of. I would personally love to see Georgia Virginia Tech, but that's just me. I felt like that's what the SEC ACC challenge should have been, Georgia versus Virginia Tech. Unfortunately, that was not. I told somebody this a few days ago. I don't know if anybody agrees with me or not, but I feel like Notre Dame just completely came out of left field. Like, I was thinking maybe Virginia Tech, Boston College. A person on Twitter told me Virginia Tech or Boston College. I was thinking maybe Pittsburgh. I don't know why, but maybe Clemson or Pittsburgh. I wanted Clemson because Georgia and Clemson are obviously rivals. Now, Georgia and Clemson in Atlanta would be nice. That would be nice. I just unfortunately would not feel comfortable with that game because Georgia might lose that game. And I say this all the time when we play these special non-conference games. I want Georgia to win, just like when they went to Daytona a few years ago, when they went to the Bahamas last year, when they went to the Legends Classic, I think in New Jersey at 21 or 22. And I think that's what made Maui special in 2019-20 was because Georgia actually did not win but one game, and it was Chaminade. They needed to win off a buzzer beater, but those Maui games, oh man, those are I remember watching the first game. I remember watching the first game, and then Georgia getting blown out, and I was like, right, well, what the crap is this? And then the second game, I was only able to watch the second half, and then Georgia was just Anthony Edwards was coming down the court doing passes over his head and freaking hitting three-pointers from half court. Georgia lost that game, but it really felt like they might have won. Yeah, and then the Chaminade game, unfortunately was not able to watch because Thanksgiving, and then Georgia actually won on a buzzer beater. So, but yeah, man, Georgia's roster's been set, and we're ready to go, man. We're ready for November, and Georgia's schedule will be out very soon enough. I am not sure who the unknown team will be. All I'm saying, I have no insiders. I'm not connected to. Well, I love Georgia basketball, but I don't have the AJC on my phone telling me teams. I'm not an insider, guys. I'm just a fan. I'm probably guessing that the Georgia versus the Georgia game to be determined game and December 14th. If it's not an ACC team, it'll probably be a small. You get what I'm saying? It'll be a small team that Georgia should beat, which I'm fine with that because that means Georgia will win. But I'm just saying I would love to see Georgia versus Virginia Tech, Georgia versus Pittsburgh, Georgia versus Boston College. Give me a good ACC team because that will help Georgia later in the year get ready for conference play, and it will help if Georgia's on the bubble in the NCAA tournament. So, got a few more videos to record, so you'll hear from me again, but let's go Dawgs.
The unthinkable, the unbelievable. They beat Arkansas and go wire to wire to win the SEC tournament.